everyone, and welcome to the Waffle Flower channel. It's Shannon here, and today I'm going to be showing heat embossing with layered stamps. I'm using the Wild and Free stamp set, which you see right there. I've already positioned my images on my MISTI, and I'm just showing you which stamps I pulled off and where they are in my image. I did that just to save some time. So I'm using I've got my card in there, my card base. It's a 5 by 6.5. And I'm starting with Waffle Flower's Coffee Loves Milk. And I'm going to ink up my stamps and stamp it down. I'm using a light color because I'm actually going to gold emboss all those stamps there when I'm done. So I'm just putting this brown on here so you can see so I can see the images, so I know where to put the like solid stamps that go underneath. Just cleaning up my MISTI here and my stamps. And then I'm going to flip my MISTI around. Not going to move any of those stamps. I'm going to leave them right there. That's going to make it really easy later when I do the gold. And position my card on the other half of the MISTI. And now I'm going to pull out the Wild and Free set and pull out the solid stamps that go with the leaves. I'm going to use 2 Waffle Flower colors here once I get these stamps positioned where I want them to go or where they need to go. I'm going to use Chirp Chirp first. It's a beautiful green color. I'm inking up just the tips of the leaves with that green Chirp Chirp, stamping them, and then I'm going to move to the Peace of Mind, and I'm inking up the other ends with the Peace of Mind. Kind of a blue-green. It's very, very pretty. And I'm going to do the same thing again. The same ends that I did Chirp Chirp, I'm going to do Chirp Chirp again, just to get a nice solid coverage of ink. And it also kind of blends. Doing it a second time, inking up and stamping a second time, helps those colors mix a little bit better and blend a little bit better. Okay, so I did the 2 leaves that are at the central image of the Wild and Free stamp set, and now I'm going to do the 2 additional leaves. In the same process, I'm going to do the Chirp Chirp first after I get them. Kind of made a mistake here, stuck and moved on me. I'm using Chirp Chirp again on the tips, and I'm using Peace of Mind, Wildflower's Peace of Mind on the other ends of the leaves. And stamping it twice just so it gets a nice gradation, nice solid color. And I actually do Peace of Mind here one more time just to make sure I got it nice and solid. So those leaves are done. Now I'm going to move on to the flowers. I'm pulling off the more solid image of the flowers, the big and the small here. And I'm going to use 2 Waffle Flower colors again for these. I'm going to use the Tickled Pink and My Pleasure. I'm sorry, my head got in there. I'm just trying to get them positioned just right. So I got them on there, Tickled Pink. And I'm going to kind of do the same process again. This is almost like the rock and roll technique that you do with your acrylic block, but I'm doing it on the using the MISTI. And I just inked up like about half of the rose or half of the flower with the Tickled Pink, and now I'm moving on to My Pleasure and inking up the other half. Not being super cautious, just making sure not to ink up the whole flower. And I will ink it up again, clean my stamp so I don't get that darker ink on my Tickled Pink pad. Tickled Pink, the same spot, the lower half. Stamping that again. And then My Pleasure again at the top of the flowers. And they just make a really pretty gradation on the flowers. It's really nice. A little bit more interesting than just stamping it in a solid color. Now I'm going to reposition the flowers for the other 2 flowers that I have. and pick those up with my Misty. And I'm going to go kind of yellow. I'm using You Said What, which is a yellow. And then I'm going to do Oh Happy Day, which is like kind of an orange yellow. And I'll stamp those again. And just doing the same technique, inking up the bottom half with a lighter color, which is You Said What, and then Oh Happy Day, which is my darker color, kind of the orange, up at the top, the upper portion of the flowers. Clean those off, done with the flowers. Now I'm moving on to the kind of floral accents. Getting these positioned, these just the layered, like the solid image that goes behind the linear image, which can be hard to position, but using the, sorry, my head's in the way, so sorry, stamping it first with that brown really helps to get it positioned, and so later when I move to my gold embossing, everything will be perfectly aligned and no fussing with it, which will be wonderful. Okay, I'm going to have kind of a purple palette. I'm using Safe Choice, which is kind of a light pinky purple, and then I'm moving on to my darker color, which is Happy Go Lucky. And inking up the outer edges of those, like, oh, they're almost like berries. And I'll do the same thing one more time, pulling over the Safe Choice. Once I clean those off, I kind of dry with the palm of my hand too after I wipe them off, just because I feel like the oils in your hands help the ink to stick a little bit, get a nicer coverage when you do that. And then the Happy Go Lucky here to finish it off. Okay. So those are done. Oh, no. I'm going to do a little bit more happy-go-lucky here, just to make the purple more intense, I think. Okay, now those are done. So now I have to let this dry because the next step is going to be my embossing, and I don't want any ink wet while I do the embossing. So I'm actually going to, after I put these stamps away, I'm going to pull my card off my Misty here and take it over to my heat embosser and dry it really good. As you can see the nice colors that I got there. Alright, I've dried my card now, and I'm just going to use some static cling. It's actually, this is a homemade one with like baby powder. And here I'm using my embossing, and I flipped my card back over, my Misty back over, so my card is now, everything should be back in alignment, and I'm using my embossing ink, inking up my stamp, and everything's going to be lined up perfectly. Just so handy because I didn't move those stamps at all. And I'm just, for good measure, going to do it one more time just so I get a lot of nice embossing ink on there, so I have nice crisp lines. Really press it all over because it's a lot of stamps. And I'm pulling over my scrap paper, and I'm going to pour some gold embossing powder on top here. And it is going to stick beautifully. Looks awesome. Really exciting. Just makes everything pop. So now I've got my embossing powder. I'm going to take it to my heat gun and emboss it, which you see the finished product here. Now I have one more thing I need to do. I need to do a little bit more to my sentiment. I'm going to take the All Good Things and R and add it together. And I've got a strip, just a scrap of pink paper. And I'm going to, I just did it on my acrylic block because it's pretty simple. Inked up my sentiment with embossing ink. Also put some powder on my paper so the embossing powder doesn't stick anywhere I don't want it to. Put the gold embossing powder on top. And then I will take this over and hit it with my heat tool. Okay, I hit it with my heat tool, cut it down, and I want it to just have a little dimension, so I'm going to cut a tiny piece of craft foam. And you saw how I used my actual sentiment to kind of trace around and create what I need to cut, a guide for what I need to cut. I'm going to pull over my multimedia mat here. I'm going to use that to adhere the foam and my sentiment together. Just painting on with the paintbrush. I don't have a squeezy bottle, which I probably should get because that might be a little bit easier. And adhere it down. And then I'm just going to put a little on the back side. And then I'm trimming it off. I got a little bit of overhang of the craft foam, positioning it here, seeing where I want it to go. And then I'm going to put some multimedia mat on the back of that, and I'll adhere it down. So that is my card. If you guys want any more product info, please visit waffleflower.com or follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas. Thank you.